Yes, sir. So you rightly said that in Germany, coalitions and collaboration is the norm. But in India, somehow, coalitions don't really sustain, and it leads to ineffective governance and, policy inaction. So why do you think that is? And even in Germany, for example, two rival parties are able to come together and collaborate and work effectively. So why do you think that is, and how can we improve
You're
on
right.
that?
If you see the last 16 years when Angela Merkel was the chancellor, 12 of those 16 years, the two major contenders for power, the CDU headed by Angela Merkel and the Social Democratic Party, the other major contender, they actually formed the government together in a grand coalition. Now it's like at the national level in India, BJP and Congress forming a government together. Somehow we think it's unthinkable, but that's how civilization works. Civilized societies work that way. Congress stands for India's economic growth and constitutionalism and eradication of poverty and protection of human rights and liberty. BJP stands for India's economic growth, eradication of poverty, protection of human rights and constitutionalism. So while you may have different ideas, and many ideas actually are the same, from GST to economic liberalization to 100 other things, many ideas are actually, even ideas there is no difference at all. While you strongly compete for political support from the people, come up with alternative agendas, what is wrong with collaboration? Actually, you must do it. That's what the parliament is for. Even if you're not part of the government, the parliament is supposed to be a forum for honest deliberation. Whereas in India, neither government formation is easy because we somehow have this feudal notion of power. Personal aggrandizement, you versus me, rather than you and I together for a cause. And even in parliament and legislatures, the discourse is most of the time, not always. There are occasions when things are remarkably good, very sound debates, but these are very few, even at the national level. The Lokpal debate was extremely good. GST debate was extremely good. But you have to identify one or two issues where there was sound, balanced national debate beyond parties. Most of the time, it's all Shor Machana, going into the well of the house, and then tearing up the papers, whoever is the speaker or the chairman of the house, whichever be the party, they keep lamenting. We've been hearing it for the past decades. Venkaiah Naidu now in Rajya Sabha, or the Lok Sabha speaker now, or the earlier speakers, earlier Rajya Sabha chairpersons. It's been happening every time, no matter who is in power. State speakers. This has become almost a tamasha. And parliament has lost increasingly its relevance and respect and credibility. Parliament meets only because the constitution says you shall meet once in 6 months at least, and you will still approve the budget. And if laws are to be made, you have to approve. And because we have an extremely badly designed anti-defection provisions of the law, mindless party kind of a thing, even when the party actually is in support of a policy because the opponent has proposed it, I oppose it in the House. Opposition for opposition's sake. All these practices have become integral to our politics. This culture needs to be changed. In the process, India is hurting. The economic growth momentum that India witnessed from 1996 to 1991 to, let's say, about 2011, for about 20 years, it has significantly declined now. Because the country is not able to come together on fundamental issues plaguing the polity and economy. And the loss is not that of the elected leaders alone. They are losing credibility, they are losing public support, and in general people are extremely unhappy with politics and they are looking for extra political solutions. Everything, maybe the court is an answer, Supreme Court, maybe the police are the answer, maybe you shoot down some culprits and it will solve the problem. So we have these extra political and extra judicial solutions, not a wise thing. But that apart, the people are losing. The country is losing big time. And today, China is mounting an incredible challenge, not only to countries like India, but even to mighty countries like the United States. It is providing an alternative vision, an autocratic, undemocratic, illiberal vision. It is showing that its economic policies are succeeding, it's able to eradicate poverty, it's acquiring economic muscle and therefore military and technological muscle and all sorts of things. Now, if India does not measure up to that through a democratic route, that the polity can function with discipline and dedication, with sound policies for good governance, to lift people out of poverty, to give everybody an opportunity and to grow the economy, If India does not show that example, we are not only doing a disservice to ourselves as a country, but to the whole world. Therefore, any kind of a model where there is greater consensus and greater understanding of policy and certain basic rules that what is good for the country, we all agree, we will not make them politically contentious issues. We will not use them to attack our rival politically. I think these are necessary. And one of the ingredients of that could be altering the electoral system so that it's not merely our preaching, because we've been preaching for 30, 40 years to political parties that did not change their behavior, though the fellows change parties at will. The same fellow who attacked another party with great vigor, next day joins another party, he now attacks the earlier party with great vigor. So it's become really not a policy-oriented issue, it's just the fight for power. But if you have a proportionality model, it will force them to change their behavior, because that is the only way they will succeed. Right now, we are preaching them, exhorting them, that's not working. We probably require an electoral system change that alters the behavior, and there are two models. One is the American model of separation of powers, and I am a great believer, at least at the state level. You see now what is happening in several states. At this very point of time, you see what's happening in Punjab. In the last 7 or 8 days we've been seeing. Earlier we have seen in Madhya Pradesh, we've seen in Karnataka, we are seeing in Maharashtra today, for instance. Maharashtra, there are serious allegations that the governor is acting as a party man. Now, this is not new. When Congress was in power at the national level, there were complaints of that kind in every state that Congress leaders who are governors are acting as party men. And it's true, in many cases they did. Our own Andhra Pradesh in 1984, a governor acted like an absolutely ignoble party worker, not as the constitutional head of state. And he removed an elected government of NTR with immense majority and popular support. And there was a massive movement. Ultimately, he was restored to office. That was one of the better known events. But there are many such examples. So clearly this model is not working. This model of either first past the post system, or at the state level, the MLA is deciding who is the chief minister. And even if there is stability in government, and sometimes there is, often there is, but the chief minister is compelled to compromise on all fundamentals unless you please the MLA. MLA has become an uncrowned king of the constituency. Unless you please the MLA and unless you give him whatever he wants, the local contracts, tenders, land, mining, police cases, whatever he wants, if you don't do, he'll become a dissident. So our democracy has become inimical to good governance. That's a very dangerous sign. If an electoral system becomes an enemy of good governance, then we have to look deeper. So that is one way at state level. In a federal polity at national level, there's no need to go into that. The other is the German model, which makes politics more consensual, more policy oriented. Every voter feels that she has a voice and her ideas are represented in the House. And parties will negotiate and resolve the differences honestly and come up with a coherent agenda and a united front. So we have to look at alternatives. Let's honestly face it, our democracy is a functional democracy. In the sense elections are held, power is transferred relatively peacefully, liberties are preserved. But that's about it. That's about it. Democracy is not merely about transfer of power peacefully. It's not about the elected leaders, it's about the people and their lives. It's about honest discourse, it's about reasoned negotiation and discussion, reasoned public debate. It's about sound public policy, rational public policy. In that, take education, healthcare, much of economic policy, many other areas, we are languishing. We have to take a relook.